The autumn sun filtered through the tall windows of the presidential palace in Kyiv as Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed two important guests from Berlin. In the middle of a war that has stretched beyond 2.5 years, Ukraine's president was again hosting foreign leaders whose political weight carried enormous influence over Europe's response. This time it was Jens Spahn, representing the Christian Democratic Union / Christian Social Union parliamentary faction, and Matthias Miersch, leader of the Social Democratic Party, SPD, parliamentary faction in Germany's Bundestag. The visit was brief, but it carried layers of symbolism. Germany has emerged as one of Ukraine's most significant partners within the European Union, not only in terms of financial and military assistance, but also in shaping the tone of diplomacy across the continent. While Berlin has sometimes been accused of moving too cautiously, the continued visits of German politicians to Kyiv highlight both a recognition of Ukraine's plight and a readiness to shoulder responsibility in shaping Europe's security future. Inside the gilded meeting hall, the mood was serious, but not devoid of warmth. Cameras captured Zelensky greeting his guests with a firm handshake before taking their seats around the polished table. Photographers and television crews were briefly allowed in, documenting the moment before the heavy doors closed and discussions began. According to official posts released on Zelensky's social media channels, the central themes of the meeting revolved around financial and defense support for Ukraine, as well as strategies for pushing forward the next stages of diplomacy. The carefully worded announcement, while short, reflected the delicate balance between operational secrecy and the need to reassure the Ukrainian public and international community. As is typical of Zelensky, the encounter was not simply a closed-door negotiation. It was also a performance designed for both domestic and foreign audiences. The Ukrainian president has developed a distinctive political style since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, one that combines wartime urgency with accessible emotional appeals. He leaned forward across the table, gesturing with his hands, speaking directly and at times forcefully, a style that has become familiar to Ukrainians watching his nightly addresses. His message was clear: Ukraine needs consistency, and Germany has the capacity to deliver it. At one point, Zelensky made a remark that was later highlighted in his official statement: "We need to ensure that the support for Ukraine is not temporary but systemic, one that allows us to plan long-term and not only survive but win." The phrase reflected not just a plea for continued aid, but a subtle criticism of wavering commitments among some Western states. For Zelensky, every meeting is an opportunity to reinforce the idea that Ukraine's battle is not just its own, but Europe's as well. Jens Spahn, representing the CDU-CSU, entered the meeting with the confidence of a politician who has long advocated a tough line on Russia. Known within German politics as a vocal supporter of Ukraine, Spahn used the occasion to underline his faction's unwavering stance. Speaking in Kyiv, he declared, "Germany has a responsibility to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. This is not charity. This is defending Europe's freedom." Those words carried significant weight, particularly because Spahn's bloc is not part of the ruling government, but remains one of the most influential voices in parliament. His presence signalled a cross-party consensus in Berlin, a message that Ukraine desperately wanted to highlight. Matthias Miersch, the SPD parliamentary faction leader, complemented this approach with an emphasis on stability and diplomacy. A lawyer by training and a pragmatic figure in German politics, Miersch struck a tone that resonated with the cautious wing of his party. He told reporters after the meeting, Ukraine can count on Germany not only for immediate support, but for long-term commitments, both financial and political. His statement hinted at Berlin's dual track, balancing military support with an eye on future reconstruction and integration of Ukraine into European structures. This meeting did not happen in isolation. It came at a time when European politics is once again being tested by war fatigue, domestic economic pressures, and political polarization. Within Germany, debates over defense spending have been fierce. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government has pledged billions to modernize the Bundeswehr and support Ukraine, but questions remain about the sustainability of such commitments. For Zelensky, every high-level visit is an opportunity to lock Germany deeper into Ukraine's cause. The presence of both CDU/CSU and SPD leaders reinforced the message that support transcends partisan lines in Berlin. The optics mattered as much as the substance. Images of German leaders seated across from Ukraine's president were meant to travel far beyond Kyiv. Diplomacy also featured heavily in the discussions. While Ukraine continues to fight on the battlefield, Zelensky has increasingly focused on building a coalition of countries to support his vision of a just peace. This includes the idea of an international summit that would consolidate backing for Ukraine's terms of settlement, which reject any territorial concessions to Russia. Zelensky stressed in the meeting, diplomacy must not become a substitute for justice. We will not accept solutions that ignore our sovereignty or the suffering of our people. That line was not only directed at Moscow, but also at voices within Europe advocating for negotiations at almost any cost. Beyond the military and diplomatic dimensions, there was also discussion of humanitarian needs and reconstruction. Ukraine's infrastructure has been devastated, with entire cities in the east reduced to rubble. German companies and state institutions are already being courted to play a role in rebuilding. Miersch acknowledged this reality in his remarks. Germany understands that helping Ukraine means not only sending weapons or funds, but also investing in the rebuilding of communities, schools, hospitals, and the economy. Such framing is essential for maintaining public support within Germany, where taxpayers often question the vast sums being sent abroad. By highlighting reconstruction, German politicians emphasize a vision of Ukraine as a future partner, not just a recipient of aid. It is important to understand that moments like these are also battles of narrative. Russia portrays Ukraine as isolated and abandoned, but Zelensky works relentlessly to counter that image. Each handshake, each joint press appearance, each public quote from Western leaders serves as evidence that Ukraine is not alone. This was visible in the deliberate staging of the meeting. The Ukrainian presidency released carefully curated images, Zelensky leaning forward, Spahn nodding attentively, Miersch listening with a serious expression. Wide shots captured all three figures together, projecting unity. As the meeting concluded, the sense was that no major new announcements would be made on that day. Instead, the value of the visit lay in reinforcing a steady rhythm of contact. For Ukraine, stability in alliances is as crucial as battlefield success. Spahn's voice carried particular resonance when he reiterated, "This is not only about Ukraine, it is about the future of Europe. If Ukraine falls, Europe's security falls with it." Those words echo a theme Zelensky has repeated countless times since 2022, that Ukraine is the shield of Europe. By having German leaders articulate the same message, he strengthens the legitimacy of that claim. The Kyiv meeting of September 1st, 2025 may not be remembered for groundbreaking decisions or dramatic announcements, but in the slow grinding world of wartime diplomacy, it was a vital reinforcement of trust. For Zelensky, the presence of both Jens Spahn and Matthias Miersch offered proof that Germany's support is not fleeting. For the German leaders, the visit was a chance to demonstrate solidarity not only with Ukraine, but with their own electorate, showing that Berlin understands the stakes. The war is far from over. But every such encounter writes another line in the story of Ukraine's resistance and Europe's response. And as long as Zelensky continues to secure these commitments, the message to Moscow remains unchanged. Ukraine stands, and it is not alone.